Welcome to today's lecture on the topic product release kinetics and mechanical methods of cell disruption. So we'll study a little bit detail on what is the importance of understanding the product release kinetics, and we'll also study a little bit detail on various mechanical methods used for cell disruption. And in mechanical methods of cell disruption, we will see the homogenizer systems which are widely used for cell disruption. So coming to the table of contents, it is the product release kinetics and the mechanical method of cell disruption technique, that is the Manton Gaulin homogenizer. So this is the homogenizer which is very widely used in industries. So coming to product release kinetics, so it is very important to understand the release kinetics of various products. So release kinetics is nothing but understanding that when exactly the product is going to release in a system. So imagine you're trying to do certain fermentation of certain, using certain organisms to produce certain product. You know that you have to keep it for 10 hours, you have to keep it for 20 hours. How do you know this? Because within 10 hours, we know that the product is going to get released. It is going to get produced. And it's always better to get the produced product removed from the system at that particular time itself. Because otherwise certain byproducts which are formed in the system can start reacting with your product, and there can be certain other byproducts formed which can impact your product quality. So to avoid these issues, product release kinetic studies will be very essential, and once you know that, you can try to release your products or extract your products from the system within that particular time, so that you can reduce your DPT cost finally. Because in case you're not doing this, just imagine you're not doing this release kinetics, and you know actually within 10 hours your product might be released. Okay, you have not done this study. We know that actually within 10 hours it is released, but you're keeping the flask for 20 hours. Just imagine you're keeping the flask for 20 hours. So what happens now? The product is released, plus again because of certain conditions there, some other products might get released, and that product which is released gets interacted with your product of interest. So there is a lot of contaminations in the system that is happening. And finally, if you want to get your product which you are interested in, that will increase your DPT steps. Internally, it will increase your DPT cost. So to avoid these issues, you should always understand the importance of this release kinetics. And once you understand this release kinetics, you are supposed to keep your flask for so many hours and then release it, that is, use it for the further processing, so that you can avoid your extra cost that is involved. Okay, so this is the important thing. And when I was talking about PDC, if you remember, for different products, this also becomes important. So what is the residence time? How much time I have to keep to get my product released? So that is important. So coming to the presence or selection of techniques, so when I'm trying to select any mechanical method of technique for cell disruption, so these are the bases on which I select which technique to go for. So whether the presence of cell wall, so whether there is a cell wall, what are the components present in the cell wall. So that's why in the previous lecture I've highlighted about various cell wall compositions. So based on that I can decide what kind of treatment might be required. So coming to the nature of cell wall, so the base strength. Okay, so I've spoken about different cell lines, if you remember, about plant cells, animal cells, bacterial cells, and I told you plant cells are very strong. So based on the strength, I can decide about how much mechanical disruption energy is required for disrupting it. Heat liberation. So how much heat is liberated in the system, and whether this heat liberated will impact the quality of the product, that has to be taken care. Need for solvents. So what all solvents I'll require, or what all chemicals I'll require for disrupting the cells. The capital cost and operating cost required for the systems. How efficient is the system? Whether this operation is easy, so that anybody, any personnel can work on it easily. Because if you have a system which is not easy to operate, then nobody will use that system. So the ease of operation is very essential. And what are the byproducts created in the system? Because we know that we cannot discharge anything as it is. We need to give treatment. So that will in turn increase the cost involved in the company. So to avoid that, it is always better to have less waste generated. Recovery of the product. So how exactly I will recover my products, and what are the flow characteristics of the broth, whether it is Newtonial, non-Newtonial, those related information you should know. And finally, the release of toxins and how to prevent their release. So this helps in the selection of the technique. So based on these parameters, we can decide which technique will I go for. So coming to mechanical methods of cell disruption, okay, under mechanical methods we have these systems. So homogenizers and grinding with abrasives and ultrasonication. So these are used in lab scale, whereas orifice type homogenizer and bead mill is used in industrial scales. Okay, so in today's lecture we will study only about homogenizers, and in my future lectures we will study about this ball mill and ultrasonication systems. So coming to homogenizers, these are systems which are used for cell disruption. Okay, so cell suspension will be sent within a narrow orifice. Okay, I'll show you the image of that. And within the systems, there is hydrodynamic shear and cavitation that is created, because of which the cells are ruptured and the components get released. Okay, so we will study how exactly this happens. And this homogenizer systems can be run in two modes, either the batch mode or the continuous mode. So this homogenizer system that we have can be used with different wall seats. So the wall, you can see there, you have a pressure thing which is piston, which is used to push the cells, and the cells are coming from here. Just imagine the cells are coming from here and the piston is in the opposite direction. The piston hits the cell disrupts, and the product is released. So the structure or the wall seats can be of different morphology. So that is what is shown here. It can be cone type, knife type, flat type, or groove type. So based on the wall seats, the different types of wall seats, you can have different types of homogenizer systems. So all these are examples for high pressure homogenizers. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. So you can see here, this is my piston, okay, which is oppositely moving. It is in this direction, whereas my feed, which is having the cells, is moving in this direction. And this entire system is the homogenizer system. So you can see your cells are made to pass through a narrow orifice. Okay, so once it is moved through a narrow orifice, the velocity is going to increase here. And now when the cells are coming here, the piston is going to hit the cells, and due to the high energy piston hitting the cells are going to get ruptured and the products are going to get released. So this is what is exploited in a homogenizer. So little bit detail on that I will tell you. Before that, let us see the same one with a continuous system. So this is the same previous diagram. So this is one here. Similarly, if you have three in series, okay, you have three systems here. So you can see my whole cells are coming here. It is getting ruptured, and the ruptured cells are collected separately. So same way with the second unit and the third unit. And this is the piston, and piston will be definitely connected to a motor, which will help in the movement of piston up and down. So in this way, your cells are getting ruptured and the ruptured products are getting released here. All this can be collected, and then you can do a solid liquid separation, and then you can process the supernatant. So in this way, you can try to use a high pressure homogenizer in a batch mode or in a continuous mode. So in industries, this kind of continuous systems will be used so that you have a lot of product coming out which can be processed. So this is a typical explanation for the same, where we have seen that it is a high pressure homogenizer systems which are used, and it disrupts the cell by shear in between the piston and the wall stator. So we saw the wall stator which is there, and we saw the piston which is there. So this is the wall stator and this is the piston. So because of the friction created between that, okay, there is shear created, there will be a cavitation bubble formed. So you can see there, when the slurry is passing through the narrow space, the velocity increases and the pressure decreases. So this leads to something called as cavitation bubble within the cell. Okay, so the cavitation bubbles are formed within the cells. Within the cells it are formed, and once the piston hits it, it explodes and the cell wall breaks and the products gets released. So in this way it works. Okay, so either you can use the batch system or you can use the continuous system. So finally your product of interest gets released, and there are homogenizer systems with cooling jackets also now, so that the heat generated in the system is nullified, or it gets reduced because of the cooling system that is there surrounded it, so that the thermal naturation of sensitive products can be made minimum. Okay, because we know most of our biotechnological products are sensitive to heat. To avoid that, now these systems are attached to this cooling system so that the heat generated will not denature the sensitive products. So degree of disruption depends on these factors, okay, whether the size of the organism, as I told you, whether it is a gram positive or gram negative. We know the cell wall difference is there, right? Gram negative is more thick compared to gram positive. So based on that, the size of microorganism will matter, composition will matter, how much cells are there in that system, that will matter, where is the product present, that also matters, type of the stator used, whether it is the cone shaped, the knife shaped. So different status we saw. Based on that also it matters. The operating temperature and pressure and number of passes to the homogenizer. So this is what I was highlighting, the number of passes. That means in this particular system, I will send the whole broth once and I'll get ruptured cell once. If I'm doing this only once, it is one pass. So imagine I'm doing this. So it is easy to explain in a batch system. So if I'm sending it once and getting the products once, it is one pass. If I'm sending it again and again rupturing it, the same cell, okay, what is ruptured in the first cycle is sent back again, ruptured again and again released. Then it is 2 pass. Again sent back and released, 3 pass. So that tells you that more number of passes are required to release the components. That means the cells are very rigid. So based on the rigidity of the cells, you may have to increase the number of passes that you do with the systems. So if it is a plant cell, you may have to do 5 passes, 6 passes, because we know plant cells are rigid. But if it is an animal cell, we know it is not rigid. 1 pass or 2 pass might be sufficient for the cells to get ruptured and the products to get released. So that is the importance of this particular system. And we know that the unbound intracellular proteins are released in a single pass. That means it is the extracellular proteins. Whereas the bound proteins, that is the intrinsic proteins, if you want to release it, you may have to have more passes because you know it is within the plasma membrane. If you can remember in the last lecture we have studied this. So since it is present within the plasma membrane, you will have to use more disruption to release this. So this is a good example for increasing the number of passes or decreasing the number of passes based on the product of interest that you are trying to exploit. So the most commonly used industrial thing is Manton Gaulin homogenizer, as I told you, and it works at this pressure, 100 bars to 1500 bars. And the capacity is, can be used even for free intracellular enzyme isolation or even for membrane bound enzymes. So there in case of membrane bound enzymes, you will have to go for multiple pass systems. And this system, that is the Manton Gaulin homogenizer, which is widely used in industries, is not suitable for fungi. So that is the most important thing that we have to keep in mind. It is very, very suitable for bacterial cells, but it is not suitable for fungal cells. Because we know that fungal mycelia is there, right? So fungal mycelia can clog the walls because we are using a narrow orifice, remember? Since we are using a narrow orifice here, when fungal cells are used, the mycelium can clog this system. And if the system gets clogged, then it cannot work. So for that particular reason, fungus are usually not used in this system. So cell disruption of fungus is not done with Manton Gaulin homogenizer, but cell disruption of bacterial cells, plant cells, animal cells, all of those can be done with Manton Gaulin homogenizer. So coming to the details of this equipment, so it is having this particular thing, okay, you have to remember this equation ln Rm by Rm minus R is equal to Kn P per alpha. So this is how it works, and for a particular bacteria you can see that this alpha value, okay, I'm talking about this alpha value is 2.37, but for yeast it is 2.9. So that tells you that this is more rigid compared to this, because you can see alpha is nothing but degree of resistance of cell to disruption. So this is more rigid to disruption compared to bacteria. And N is nothing but the number of passes through the system. P is the operating pressure and K is the time dependent rate constant. And Rm, okay, this Rm is nothing but maximum product available for release, and R is the product released after N passes. So based on the number of passes, whether it is 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass, so this is the R, amount released after that particular pass. And this is nothing but the maximum product available for release. So we always consider Rm as 100, okay, because maximum product that can get released from the system can be only 100, and R is based on the number of passes. So let us see one small problem also in today's lecture. So these are some more equations which might be useful sometimes. Ln 1 minus R is equal to minus Kn, where R is the fraction of the cell disruption. And for continuous mode that we saw, there is one more equation where you can see T is the mean residence time. Okay, T is the mean residence time, K is the rate constant, J is the number of systems that you are using, and R is the fraction of cell disruption. So you can see here also they are considering 1. So in the same way here, you can consider this Rm to be 1, or you can consider Rm to be 100. So if you are considering it 100, here also it should be in that way. If you are considering 1, this should be in point range. So in that way you have to take care about this when you are solving problems. So we will see a small problem today. Okay, it is not small actually, a big problem where it is a graphical problem where they have tried to use micrococcus bacteria. So I'll read this problem first so that we understand what we are supposed to do. So micrococcus bacteria are disrupted using a Manton Gaulin homogenizer. So you can see they are trying to disrupt a bacterial cell using a Manton Gaulin homogenizer, which is working at the pressure between, so they have given the pressure range in which it is working. Data for protein release as a function of number of passes through the homogenizer, and plotting the slope value with operating pressure. Alpha was found to be 2.37 and K was found to be 1.71. So in this particular problem, I've already given these values. But in case these values are not given, we'll have to find out these values and then use it. So I will show you the main problem where these values won't be given. We have to find out this alpha and K values and then only use this for solving these two problems. So we will do that now. Okay. So how many passes are required to achieve 80% protein release at operating pressure of 460 kgf per centimeter square? So operating pressure is given and 80% release. So RM value is given to us. Sorry, R value is given to us. We need to find out how many passes. N is how much we need to find out in case A. Whereas in case B, estimate the pressure required. So P is equal to how much to deliver RM, that is your pressure recovery. R value, that is 70%, is given and number of passes is given to be 2. Okay, so along with that they have given this table. So this table will be given to you with number of passes data and the protein, that is the pressure drop data. So different pressures it is working, okay, and different passes. So we have seen this equation already. So we will use this equation for plotting. So we have to plot first ln Rm by Rm minus R versus N. Okay, so this along y-axis and N along x-axis. So you know you have 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass, 4 pass, 5 pass, 6 pass. Okay, and you have different operating pressures 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. So you will get different lines here, right? So 1 pass, different pressure, 2 pass, different pressure, 3 pass, different pressure. Like that you will have for different passes and different pressure. So first this data is given to you. So from this we know that these values that are given to us are nothing but R values. Okay. So considering Rm to be 100, this will be 100 and each time your R value is going to change. So based on that you are supposed to make a new table for ln Rm by Rm minus R. So using this previous values that you have, you know Rm is 100, R is changing for each trial. So imagine I'm doing for this particular value, it will be 100 by 100 minus 5. Ln of 100 by 100 minus 5, I'll get some value. That is my first value here. Similarly, I will do it for all the values. Okay, so you can see here the value is not given, so that's why we cannot calculate here. So once you have this ln Rm by Rm minus R data with you, you will plot this along y-axis and you will take the number of passes along x-axis. Okay, so now you will get different operating lines. So this is actually for different pressures, 200, 300, 400, 500, 550. Okay, because you can see here 1 pass, different pressure, 2 pass, different pressure, 3 pass, different pressure. So in this way you can plot this particular graph, and once you plot this, the important thing for us is calculate the slope value Kp par alpha. Okay, this is important for us, Kp par alpha. So you can see here, this is of the form y is equal to mx. Okay, m is nothing but slope, right? From this you know that all the slope values are known to you. So in the first case, that is operating line 200, the slope is how much? 0.05, whereas second case it is 0.133. Third case, that is For 400, it is 0.263. For 500, it is 0.426. So this is the slope value, which is nothing but Kp par alpha. So you can consider this as x, okay, this whole thing as x, so that it becomes easy for understanding. Okay, so now you have these values, Kp par alpha values, different Kp par alpha values. So now what we do is, we take ln for Kp par alpha value that you get, and we take ln for the pressure values. So pressure is nothing but this, 200, 300, 400, 500, 550. So if you take ln of 200, you will get this. If you take ln of 300, you will get this. So same way you are doing it for all the pressures, and from the previous graph you have already got your Kp par alpha values. For that same Kp par alpha values, you find out ln of that, you will get these values. So now you have to plot a graph of ln P versus ln Kp par alpha, where ln P is along this direction and ln Kp par alpha is along this direction. So since this is like this, you know it is in the which quadrant? Fourth quadrant. This is positive and this is negative, y-axis negative, that comes in the fourth quadrant. So I am plotting this in the fourth quadrant, and once I get my values here, I know I can find out the y equation with the r square, and I am getting r square of 0.99, and y is equal to mx plus c type same, okay, y is equal to mx plus c means 2.356 is my slope, right? So the slope value mx plus c, m is 2.m and c, you can see here, m is 2.356, whereas c is the intercept, okay. So this is my intercept. This is supposed to be my intercept. So this is ln x, right? This whole thing I have taken as x. So considering that, you can see there. So this is my value, minus 15.45. So ln k, okay, ln k is equal to this value. So my intercept is considered to be ln k, and my slope is considered to be alpha. Okay, so alpha value I'll get directly from this, that is 2.356, whereas my intercept, that is ln k, okay, that value is this c value, intercept. So I've got it from the equation that it is minus 15, because it will not cut here, okay, it will go straight down like that, and when it goes and cuts, it will be this value, minus 15.45. So ln k is minus 15.45. Okay, that means k is equal to exponent of this value, because ln is used. So since it is ln, it is exponent, and if it is log, it is 10 power. So in this way, I will get k value to be 1.95 into 10 raised to minus 7. So these values might be directly given for you in the problem. So in case these values are directly given, these steps, whatever we saw till now, will not be there. So this is not required. This is not required. Directly you have these values. You can use it directly for the sub questions and answer it. So in case these values are not given in the problem, then you are supposed to do this, whatever I have told you, and get the value of alpha and k. So once you get your values of alpha and k, you can solve the sub questions. So let us see the sub question now. How many passes are required to achieve 80% product release at an operating pressure of 460 kgf per centimeter square? So it's the same equation I'm using it. ln, so I told you if it is 80, it should be 100. If it is 0.8, if you're considering this as 0.8, this will be 1. So since this is 80% given, I'll consider that to be 100. 100 by 100 minus 80 is equal to k value, which I've already found out to be 1.95 into 10 raised to minus 7, okay, into n, which we are supposed to find out, into p power alpha. P value is already given, 460, and to the power alpha, we have already found out 2.356. Okay, I've written 37 by mistake, sorry. You have to take it 356. So based on this value, you can write it there 356, and you will get your number of passes. So if it is, you will get approximately close to 5 passes. So imagine you're getting 4.6, 4.7. So you cannot have like 4.7 pass. It should be whole numbers. You can send it 1 time, 2 time, 3 time. You cannot send it 4.6 times. So if you get any number like that, like 3.8, it is 4. If you get 4.6, it is 5. 5.2, 5.4, it is 6. So it is always better to have 1 pass more. Okay. So otherwise you will under design the system. So in this way, you can understand that for so much recovery with so much pressure system, you will have to send this micrococcus into the system 5 times. Number of passes is 5. Similarly, we will see one more case study where they have used a pressure, you have asked to find out the pressure to deliver 70% protein release with 2 passes. So we know N is 2, R is 70%, we are supposed to find the P value. So using the same equation, rearranging it, P power alpha is equal to this term divided by K into N. So we know this value is 100, 100, that is the RM value. R is given as 70 in this particular case, and this we already know the K value, and we know the number of pass given in this is 2. So if we want to do this within 2 pass, how much pressure should I apply? That is what we are trying to find out. So trying to apply log or ln on both the sides. So if you are applying ln here also you should apply ln. Here if you are applying log, here also you apply log. So if it is ln, it is exponent. If it is log, it is 10 power. So using that concept, finally I'll get my pressure to be 578 kgf per centimeter square. So this is the pressure that I need to operate my homogenizer if I want to deliver 70% protein release within 2 passes. So if I am confined that I want to use only 2 pass, but I want to release 70% protein in the system, then I should know that I should have a minimum pressure of 578 kgf per centimeter square. So only if I maintain this pressure, I'll be able to release 70% product within 2 passes. So this is the importance of this particular problem that we saw. I hope that is clear. So that's it for today's guys. I think the concept of homogenizer and the problem on homogenizer is clear. Please let me know with your comments in the comment section if you have any queries. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe the channel for more updates.